the Workhorse Podcast, where we dig deep into the grit, passion, and strategy behind building a successful rural business. We're your hosts.
I'm Kendall Ballantyne, owner of Central Park Farms and marketing for farmers.
And I'm Jessica Garza, owner of Moose Valley Ranch and founder of Market in the Mountains.
This podcast is for hardworking female farmers and rural entrepreneurs who are ready to turn their dreams into thriving businesses. From deep diving business strategies that actually work to balancing farm family life and everything in between.
We're here to give you practical tools, candid insights, and a healthy dose of community support. If you're looking for women who actually cheer you on, are willing to tell you the hard truths, and that understand how much it can throw off your day when the cows get out, you're in the right spot.
This podcast is for the doers, the women who don't stay in one spot for too long, for the workhorses.
We're back today with probably my favorite. I say that every time, but we are back with straight talk from you guys. That's what we titled the episodes. This is where you had a chance to submit your questions through my website. There's a form. The link's also in the show notes. But we get to answer questions from you, which one is so nice because it takes some brain power off of this. Like, it is a lot, you guys, to come up with topics to talk about. And we're constantly just trying to figure out what we're doing for the next week. We're just like you in that sense, that if it's not the crisis in front of our face, it usually gets pushed off. And so I love doing this. I also feel like it's a little bit of a wild card because I don't know what's coming next. We do a quick review of just to make sure we've not reading it for the very first time. We don't plan out our answers. We fire off the cuff, and you're getting the real side of all of this.
It's a total hot seat moment.
It makes me think of a panel at a speaking thing where they're fired, the audience can stand up with a microphone and ask you anything. And you're kind of like, oh, I really wonder what's coming next.
We should get the guys to start sorting our questions for us. So then we really don't even have a second to review them. That's what we'll do. Moving forward after this episode, we're going to get the guys to review the questions. Because we just want to make sure, obviously, that there's something not absolutely wild in the questions. Because they are anonymous, so anything could come up.
Yeah.
But we'll get the guys to sort them and then we'll come. But I do have question number 1 for you, Jess. When was the last time either of you took a real day off? Does that even exist in rural business life?
No, it doesn't exist. Not in my world, unless you're sick.
It does
really
for me. I take some days off.
Truly unplugged days where you're not handling anything on your phone. This says took a real day off, and a real day off in my land is not touching the business in any way, shape, or form.
I take days off. I just took 2 days off with Jay.
Are you mentally not touching the business? What's our threshold here for real day off?
Okay.
Are you and Jay talking about business plans on your real day off?
No, actually, we're getting a lot better with that. We actually take days off. So a lot of times we take Fridays off now because Fridays is the day that our whole crew is off. So we okay, maybe I shouldn't use that as an example because we do check animals, but
bazinga!
Yeah. Okay, yeah. However,
what if you have livestock?
Correction. No, yes, because now when we go to Grand Forks, because the ranch isn't open for the season yet, and the Windsor project's not going, we do take days off. Yep, we both took Sunday off. No, nothing on the business.
Didn't even talk about what color wallpaper you want at the Windsor, or whether someone actually sent you a picture of the animals to post on Instagram for your business.
We went to the meat draw at the Legion, enjoyed karaoke, had ciders, drank ciders, ate pizza.
Did you post
went in the hot tub
on any
during
of your
the day?
social media accounts?
I don't think so.
You didn't do an I'm open? We're open?
Not on Sunday. I like how you tried to catch me in a lie.
I'm not catching you in a lie. I think that sometimes we think, oh, we didn't do anything on the business, but even posting to social media is doing something on the business.
Okay, but also at the point that I'm at, that feels just like part of a normal existence, not necessarily. I'm checking.
Question. She's checking.
I'm checking in my archives.
You should truly, because part of it is animals don't take a day off. social
Okay,
media. Did
I
you?
lied. I posted 3 stories
I knew it. I
about
knew
food
it.
prepping.
Yes.
But it wasn't even like a real okay.
Doesn't
So
matter
if that
though.
doesn't count, if that counts as working, okay, we're running a massive farm. Like the business is big with all the diversification, all the employees. The fact that I only uploaded 3 Instagram stories, didn't respond to an email, didn't talk about business. All I was doing is food prepping. So I made one quick talk in a camera about how we were spending our Sunday doing nothing. And I was doing some food prepping. And then I did 2 quick little videos about what I was prepping for the week. I feel like that doesn't count. I want the listeners to vote.
Can we do that? Can we arrange a poll for this one?
Us. I'm going to put a poll in my Instagram stories, whatever. We're going to make a poll somewhere and I want you guys to vote.
I 100% have not had a real day off in years.
I didn't used to. It's gotten to the point where we can. I mean, we're not doing it all the time.
We could because I don't have livestock that depends on me. And I have very cyclical sales in the sense that it's not small transactions every day. It's bigger events spread through. Like there are definitely weekends where I'm not doing a hard sell. We definitely could take a day off. I have not.
You do. Just because you post a little bit on Instagram stories does not mean that you don't like.
I can truly tell you that every single day for the last 365 days, I have touched Market in the Mountains.
Not when you came to my house.
No, we planned to gather and did.
Not for your birthday. You did not work when you came to my house for your birthday. You did not. We drank.
Yeah, but I did on the way up there as I was handling stuff in the car on the way up, and then on the way back down because we were only there for like 12 hours.
You need to learn how to balance.
Don't even come at me with that. Don't even come at me. Balance is great. Balance does not get my business to where I want it to be. And at this point in my life, balance simply means not dropping balls into a flaming volcano lava that explodes. And I don't feel burned out. There are times where I feel myself closely approaching it, and that's where I will really cut back. I will say that the last week or so, it was right after market applications were done, which is a super intense week. And I am behind in my emails because I have been going to bed at night and staring at a wall, truly. And so there are times where I lean more into it and lean out of it, but I don't think I've hit this like true burnout point. And I can say that we really have touched the business, done something on the business. Even our family trips, like on the drive, I'm trying to do something or I'm sending paperwork or I'm answering emails. Yeah, I don't have days off.
I feel like that leads into one of the other questions, but that's not the next question. So we'll skip to the next one, I think. Do you got that one?
You can go wherever you want.
Okay.
It's our podcast. We can do what we want.
Okay, well then, because that feels like that one leans into the next question. Yesterday, my 6-year-old asked why my phone is always in my hand. The guilt is crushing me. Jess, how do you handle this? Because I feel like, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead because when you were starting to talk about it, I was like, ooh, I feel like this one leans into that question.
To be very honest, Kendall and I have had multiple conversations offline about the guilt I have around being on my phone with the kids. I am going to 100% own that I reached a point within the last year that I was doom scrolling way too much.
Mm-hmm.
Way too much. Phone addiction is a real thing. And I would say that I hit that point and recognized it and had a really hard time smacking the phone out of my hand. If that's what you're doing is doom scrolling, dig deep and put some self-reflection in and recognize that it's an addiction and you need to do whatever you need to do to make that a healthier addiction or quit the addiction, whatever that is. So I think there's that piece of it. And then I think there's the piece of it where I do know that there are times on my phone that I am working on my phone. I'm not doom scrolling. And whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, in my brain, I differentiate those times. Doom scrolling when the kids are asking me to play a game with them is lazy. It's unmotivated. It's not what's best for my kids. Am I guilty of doing it? Yes. That is different than me saying, Mom needs to make a reel right now to market in the mountains. Once I'm finished with this reel, I will be right over there. And those are two really separate things for me.
And I feel like now Jagger was 6 when we started Central Park Farm. So certainly we've been through that journey in our household as well. I made a rule with myself, and now that he's a teenager, like he's on his own phone, he's like living his life. He's got a driver's license and stuff. So I don't have to deal with it quite the same way. Although now I get it from Jay. Oh, which is like a different thing. But I kind of created a rule with myself to kind of combat the falling down a rabbit hole that I create before I consume. So if I'm going to go and open up my phone and want to just like fall down the rabbit hole, I need to provide something of value into my business through social media. And I find that when I was dealing with that previously, I really stuck hard and fast to that rule when the kids were younger, because it reduced the amount of times that I would go. Because if you know you have to create something, if you know you have to go film a story or update something or post something, and there is a business task associated with it first before you just get to go and mindlessly scroll, I find it happens less in my personal experience.
I fundamentally disagree.
Oh, yeah, but you like creating content.
Yes. Yeah. So well, I like it, and I will immediately scroll afterwards. I'm not good about getting on creating and then setting it down. So I don't have a problem getting on creating and then I scroll forever.
Because you're okay with creating content. Yeah. The vast majority of people who we talk to don't actually love creating content. So if you don't actually love creating content and you don't want to film an Instagram story in your jams, like I'm okay doing or you're okay doing, then you do think twice about it. You think like, is it worth it? If I have to come up with something creative, is it really worth it? Am I going to do something productive in my company? Because like for me, there's a big difference between just going and sitting on your phone and going and sitting on your phone and doing something productive for the business. And don't get me wrong, I'm a social media consumer. And I think that that's something that I kind of always have to work on as well. And I've tried to really be aware of it. It was when the kids were young, I was really aware of it for that. Now I try to be aware because of like, you know, if me and Jay are sitting on the couch watching a movie, that I'm not like sitting on my phone.
I have tried lately to make sure that as soon as I hear mom or one of the kids yelling around the corner or something, like they're impending, that I kind of had this bad picture stuck in my head of them always entering a room and always seeing me with my head down in a phone. And I have tried to consciously break that habit by, even if I'm in the middle of a reel or doing a work thing, the minute I hear that or see them coming or something like that, of setting my phone down. It's almost like a guilty tick, like when someone's getting caught. But that's because I want them to see my eyes when they come around the corner. I don't want them to associate me as head down in my phone. That picture that painted in my head did kind of smack me upside the head and help me to prioritize that and maybe listen a little better, because they were saying mom like 4 times before I would look up. And I don't want that for them. I don't want to be that mom, even though I can recognize that I was being that mom. I try. So my boys are 8 and 10. They've never not known me building a business because I've been doing it since they were so little. I try really hard to articulate to them exactly what I'm doing so that they hold me accountable in a sense. Like the other day they wanted to play Rummikub, however you say it, Rummikub, whatever.
No idea.
It's a game. It's a math thing, whatever. Yeah. My kid loves it. I said, I have to get this done. This is what I'm doing. I have to get this done and then I will come play with you. And every 2 minutes he would come back over. Are you done? I'm like, no, I'm trying to get this beat to the sound. Hold on. And then as soon as I was done, because I'd made that promise to him, I wouldn't break it. And so I set my phone down and go. I've also utilize do not disturb more. With my full-time job, I've had to plan ahead more. And I don't know if anyone else, spoiler alert, Kendall doesn't even know this because I haven't talked to her, but there are some shifts in social media in the way that consumers are consuming that I'm educating myself on. And it's going to impact how we share on social media because of how people are consuming it. That is helping me to shift some of my habits. And I'm like knee deep in this, so I don't have any like rocket science for you yet.
I also think that it comes down to your spouse if you have one. Like at the beginning, because I do so much of my work on my phone, so it's responding to emails, it's doing things other than just social media. I think it's important that your spouse understand why you're on your phone. And so for Jay, he now understands why I'm on my phone. He understands what I'm doing as far as tasks, because initially he didn't fully understand what I was doing. So then when there would be something like, when Jagger would be like, Kendall, 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 blah, 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 over and over trying to get my attention for something, and I was right in the middle of something, if it wasn't really urgent, Jay would politely remind Jagger, like, hey, Kendall's still on her work day, and she's just trying to get that finished. And like, so it wasn't just me constantly being the one like, I'm working. So he would get a buy-in from dad that I was working. And then it would be, I'd wrap that up, and then I'd be able to give him my undivided attention. But it was nice when I had that kind of, not backup, but another one of the adults in the household reminding him that, you know what, just because I'm working from home and it's 2:30 and you're off school now doesn't mean my work day's over. And so sometimes I still have to be doing those things while he's here.
I get the guilt from my 70-year-old dad about always being on my phone. And I had to really work to educate him that I'm not just on my phone texting or playing, what's a bubble game where you shoot bubbles?
I thought you were going to say Candy Crush.
Oh, okay. Maybe, I mean, Candy Crush, bubble game, whatever it is. My mom plays this popping bubble game in solitaire on her phone. And I actually started getting kind of snarky back when he would make the comment, and I would be like, well, I actually just signed a contract, sent an invoice. I just uploaded tax documents. I just responded to a customer inquiry with really specific things that I was doing. Yes, there was times where I was just scrolling or something, but if I was actually doing something, I think that helped him to realize that we now do all of this on our phones, what we previously did sitting at a computer. And somehow it's socially more acceptable if you're sitting at a computer locked in your room than if you're on your phone at the kitchen table.
Totally. I couldn't agree more.
Weird. But I think that if you want to ask me how I handle it, the guilt part of that with your kiddo saying that, some of it's just inevitable, I feel like. And then the other part of me has really worked, and this is recent. Like, I'm not sitting here as some, beacon of perfectness by any mean. But recently I've worked really, really hard to intentionally leave my phone behind, which was huge. And if you haven't tried it and you feel like you're doom scrolling a lot, I strongly suggest that you try this. We went to take off for the store for something, which is 20 minutes away, 25 minutes away. And I left my phone at home. I felt like my left hand had been cut off.
Yeah.
It was so weird. And CJ made multiple remarks about it.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It is. And it really is true. And I know there's lots of other podcasts that do lots of deep dives on like the, phone addiction and different things like that. But I have no desire to get into that. I know I'm addicted. I know that it's an appendage that's forever with me. I know it's tracking everything I do. I accept that, I guess, as whatever it is. But I have tried, like, if we're going to go out on a hike with the family and there's no need for me to have my phone, I just try to leave it at home now. And it makes me feel a little better because I'm like, oh, they got all of me, all of my attention for the whole time. I feel a little less guilty than when I am on it. But I don't think there's an perfect answer.
And when the kids were younger, one thing I want to add, when the kids were younger, I would try to block out my time in the evening. And that really helped me because at that time, I was still doing like the one-on-one coaching and stuff like that. And so if they knew that I was going to do some work stuff, but from like 7 to 8 or 6 to 7 or whatever time window that was, it's kind of easier to plan around, right? Then the kids would mentally know that like during that time, I was going to be maybe on my phone or I was going to be doing something like that. And it was a bit easier for them to wrap their heads around that I still had some work to do in the evening. And maybe that was the time that Jay was going to jump in and do some like homework help or whatever it was, so that everybody in the family could plan around. So it wasn't just always happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a sharp left turn. That kind of depressed me. I'm not going to lie.
Just know you're not alone.
It's just a sore spot, right? Like it's one of those things that you see about yourself and you want to improve, but it almost doesn't feel possible. I know it is. Please don't send me tips and tricks. I don't need that. Anyways, we're taking a sharp left turn.
Running a rural business isn't for the faint of heart. Whether you're growing crops, raising livestock, or building a small town business, you know the challenges and the rewards better than anyone.
That's why we created the Workhorse Collective, a monthly coaching membership designed for rural business owners and farmers who want practical marketing strategies, real community, and results that actually matter. Gain expert guidance and live sessions tailored to your unique challenges. Connect with other driven business owners who share your values. Get professional feedback to fine-tune your marketing and grow your business. Join on your terms with flexible options that fit even the busiest schedules.
This isn't fluff or theory. It's hands-on support from people who live and breathe rural businesses, just like you.
Visit the link in today's show notes to learn more and become part of a community that's working smarter, not harder, to grow thriving rural businesses. The Workhorse Collective, real tools, real results, and real connection.
Because when rural businesses succeed, our communities thrive.
Next question. How do I stop worrying about local competition? There's someone in my town who copies everything that I do.
Okay. Can I first ask a question though? I feel like, again, I wish that we could ask secondary questions, because do you feel like they're doing everything that you do, or did you launch a meat subscription program that literally everyone does and there just also happens to be somebody who launched one after you? Like, did you invent the idea? Because we're all in the same like vortex on social media where like all the business owners are doing like the same things, just regurgitated in their own thing, their own like take on it, in which case maybe she's not actually copying you and you're just like internalizing feeling that way because they're doing something similar. I don't know.
You just went there.
I did.
You just went there. I love that.
Because I've been copied. Like I've been copied. I literally had a farmer take my entire website, including the copy. The only part they changed was their about us because it was two dudes and they farm in the same community as me. That is copying someone. Somebody launching a meat subscription box in my community, despite the fact that I've been doing it for so long. And I actually think I was, if not the first direct-to-consumer farmer in my community doing it. I was one of, but I didn't invent that system. Like, I like to think I do it real well, but I didn't invent it. So somebody else doing it in my community is not copying me. So I think we need to make sure that when we think somebody's copying, that they are actually copying us.
That's such a... I feel like my brain right now is like ting, 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 ting. The ADHD is kicking in hard because I'm immediately drawn to the topic that also it's incredibly popular right now to coach online.
Yeah.
And share your step-by-step processes, and likely, no shade, we both take courses online and we obviously offer a course or a group coaching online. My guess is you maybe learned something from someone else that is legitimately marketing the process that you're using to other people. And when you go and share and like and take and tag and interact with, it's likely that people in your small town are going to see that and go there because they see you being successful and they're like, oh, that they did this and that made them successful and I'm going to go there and do that and I'm going to be successful. And they're getting the same education. Wildly popular right now. And there's also that, I can't remember what the term is, but where there are historically proven incidents where two identical tracks of thought or development occurred in civilizations that were isolated in a way that they couldn't have communicated, because just as humans, we tend to go, I don't know, there's like a pattern. And I can't remember what that type of thinking is called, but it's like that there is the capable thought of having two of the same thoughts happen that weren't necessarily even impacted. I don't think that's the case. I hear this question and I'm like, oh, did they start a market down the road from your market? That's where my brain, that was the other ADHD ping was.
And honestly, I'm not trying to discredit whether or not somebody's copying you. But for me, that is always something that you want to stop and take a moment and say, like, are they always copying you? Are they just doing direct to consumer meat
Right,
sales?
the gut check.
You got to gut check it first.
Yes.
And fair. I also want to say that if you have built a business in a way that you are the face, the identity, the twist on it, it doesn't matter if somebody's copying you because they're not you. Like, people come into my farm store and they take pictures. They used to come up to me at the market and I would watch somebody taking pictures of my stuff. And then I'd be like, oh, hi, I'm Kendall. And they'd say that they were coming because they were going to open a business like mine. And then they're taking pictures of my setup while I'm in it. And I mean, Jess, you probably don't know this. That's actually why I launched Marketing for Farmers, because I figured if people were going to duplicate what I was doing, at least I could get paid to have them pick my brain that way instead of, just coming and taking photos of all the things that I was doing and just trying to glean it off of me in another way in those like free, can I pick your brain moments. But
it's a little bit of a left turn here, but I think that that is part of why coaching is becoming so prevalent, because that's the exact, I didn't know that's where it started from, but that's the exact reason why I launched my events workshop, is because so many people were in my DMs and wanting so much of my time asking questions that it was like, this is knowledge I worked really hard through the School of Hard Knocks to learn. I didn't have anyone teach me how to do that, really. I mean, there was things I'd learned through other stuff, but it was like, if you want me to go back and forth for 45 minutes, like, that my time is worth something. And so I do think that there's value in teaching on those subjects where people are going to be copying you. My heart goes out to you in this situation, though, because I'm going to guess, like, those are all great lessons that we can share on the topic of this question. But I'm going to guess that this is someone that's like, I don't know, in my head, I have a retail store, maybe. This is so hard. I want more information.
I had a retail store in my head too. So if you guys are going to leave an anonymous question, you don't have to say what kind of business you're in,
right?
But it can help us be able to like really craft this down to your unique situation. Because in my head, it's retail too. But I also was like thinking farm because, that's where my brain automatically goes.
I just think retail. And is this like you came out with a specific window setup and then the next day or the next week, theirs has the exact same pieces of it, or you came up with a flyer for something and then they used the same Canva template. I saw that happen with Market. I had a template in Canva that we were designing the poster out of, and then I quickly saw it used like 3 times in the month. It was obviously a popular Canva template. I immediately scrapped it, even though I really loved it. I scrapped it because I didn't want to look the same as everyone else. Yeah. So that's hard.
Yeah. And I mean, do know that many, many people will see through that you, especially in a small town, will see through that because they know that you were the first one to do it. And if you just continue, what you can't do is allow that to stop you from showing up the way that you need to show up for your business. And that is what I hear so often when this question gets asked to me. It's almost like they feel like they're getting copied. So then they stop posting on social media and they stop doing all of these things and stop showing up in the way that they were because they're trying to like protect the business. And I totally get that. you feel like there's like a snake in there and they're like trying to get your stuff. And so you kind of curl in. But the problem is when you do that, you're not marketing yourself any longer, or you're not marketing yourself efficiently, effectively. And then other people are not seeing the content that you're putting out, or you're not showing up the way that is best for your business. So as much as it pains me, sometimes you've just got to put blinders on and you've got to push through. You've got to find creative ways to put your own personal identity and your own personal spin on things that can't be copied, because you cannot be copied. The products that you sell in your retail store or the sales channels that you use, those things can be copied, adapted, but you cannot be. And that's why I have always tried to build Central Park Farms as a personal brand that just happens to sell meat, because then it can't be duplicated.
I love that you just said that, because I'm a huge fan of the mute and block button on social media. Because my guess is 9 times out of 10, someone that's feeling this way is seeing it a lot online, right? We don't usually go to a direct competitor's location ourselves to scope it out. So it's probably an online thing. Mute them, block them, unfriend them.
Yep.
If it's getting to the point where you're not able to function in the ways that you need to with marketing, or you're shutting down, like Kendall's saying, you're really closing up the doors and you're kind of shutting down because you feel that way, you need to eliminate that from your life. And you need to continue forward with your eyes on the prize and dig deep for a little stubbornness, because I always like to say they can copy me, but they can't sustain my workload for this long. I'm the one that knows what I can operate at capacity-wise, and I will outwork you till the end. Like, you can do the exact same thing that I do. I'm going to do it longer. I'm going to be more stubborn. I'm going to be the one that becomes the establishment. Get creative. This is where you lean on your relationships too, with people in your, can you do a collaboration with someone else that has some exclusivity to it? Can you have something designed just for you that you hold the trademark and patent for? That's sort of kind of stepping into a higher level of business. And I think a lot of like entry level businesses come into, but can you create some ways like that where you do hold the intellectual property for it and you do have the right to control who has and hasn't? Yes, that's an expensive proposition, but it will set you apart.
For sure.
And then leaning into how you're different, what makes you stand apart. You as a personal brand, you also as, does your building have a feature that's different? Do you have different rules in your area that they don't have, where you can do something that they won't be able to? Find those ways that you get to be on your own and stand out in that way.
And as hard as it may feel, you have to continue to push your business, and you've got to put blinders on, because there are a lot of things outside of our control in business. And sometimes these kinds of things are one of those things that we can't control fully. And so bless and release and keep pushing through on your business. I think we've got time for one more. This one feels
Maybe
really
two.
good. Maybe two.
Okay.
This one feels like a big one though. When I look at other farms on social media, they seem to have everything figured out. I'm constantly battling imposter syndrome, wondering if I am farmer enough to be teaching others. Did either of you experience this, and how did you push through it? That's such a good question.
Yeah, I don't relate to the farmer enough thing because I'm not a farmer. I'm not subscription meat sales. So that term kind of throws me for a minute there.
Okay, well, I can tell you that I definitely was not farmer enough at all when I started showing up on social media. I was not farmer enough to teach people things on social media, at least in the beginning. And I think it's important to remember, and this is still something that hangs me up sometimes, we're never going to have all the answers as farmers, as producers. We just aren't. Just like we're never going to have all the answers in business. For me, I have to remind myself that my ideal customer for Central Park Farms is not another farmer. So I'm not out here trying to teach farmers. I'm out here trying to teach consumers. And you don't have to have much of a knowledge in farming to be able to educate consumers, because the vast majority of my ideal customer doesn't know much about agriculture. So does that mean that sometimes I'm going to get checked by another farmer? can't even tell you how many times a dude farmer wants to tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm not even wrong. I have a reel popping off right now. It doesn't even talk about grain finished beef. It just talks about the fact that we grass fed, grass finished with our beef. Doesn't say anything negative. I cannot tell you how many dudes have been in there that are cattle ranchers that are like, just they got an opinion about the way I raise my beef. And that is what that is. Sometimes I delete them. Sometimes I block them if they're real hairy. I let them do their thing if they're saying something, if that's not like totally mean. But it just is what it is. But guess what? Steve, who's raising cattle in Oklahoma, isn't my ideal customer. So I don't really care what Steve thinks. It's not impacting my ability to sell my product. So it doesn't really matter to me. I'm always have an edge on my consumer and I can teach them and show up the way that seems fit. And at the beginning, it was that I was the underdog. People were learning alongside me as I navigated agriculture for the first time.
I knew I needed to sit with that for a second because my detective brain was detectiving apparently. Why are you looking at other farms on social media if that's not your ideal customer? I think I kind of just had an aha moment with this in the sense that because I initially focused on, am I farmer enough to teach others, teaching our consumers always, because I would hope that if you're producing a product, you are somewhat of an expert on your product. And like you said, teaching your consumers. But then I kind of backed out of it a little bit and I was looking at that. And when I look at other farms on social media, you're not trying to sell, like you said, Steve in Oklahoma is not your ideal customer. Stop looking at them. You need to retrain your algorithm is what you need to do.
No, honestly, farmers are judgy.
What?
Farmers are judgy.
No.
We do.
No, I mean, not for you. I'm sorry. I'm talking for the person that asked the question.
Oh.
If you're looking at what other farms are doing and it's making you feel less than, quit looking at what other farms are doing.
Yeah. And also remember that farms that, and right now in my head, I'm picturing specific farms that look like they've got it really together. Just remember too that there's some farms with big financial backings. There's some farms that are not sharing the whole reality. Like
the tea.
We're carefully curating our experiences on social media. And if somebody has a massive financial backing, maybe they're not showing, maybe they're buying things like beef from, like there's just so many other things in the equation that can result in that feeling that they have it all together. Well, maybe they have it all together because they literally have a staff and they've got, all the money to put into infrastructure. I don't have. My animals get out more often than I care. They're on the property. We have external fencing in most cases, but sometimes they get out of areas and it's like, yeah, if I had a bunch more money to do really good fencing and do this and that, or if my cattle squeeze was newer and I had the technology, yeah, of course I look at that. But I'm also not a primarily beef producer, so I don't have the infrastructure for that. I raise chicken and pork more. So if I start comparing myself to a big cattle rancher, well, of course they're going to know more. And of course they're going to have better handling equipment. And of course they're going to all of these different things. So A, if they make you feel worse about your business, don't follow them. But B, also remember we're all at different stages. We all do things differently. That doesn't make what you're doing any less valuable. And they are also curating, and you are seeing only a specific part of the story that they're choosing to tell. We are not all ripping off the Band-Aid on all the things that are going on our farm. I share a lot, but I'm still not sharing everything.
That's why I say, I think if I could whisper in this person's ear, go find different things to follow on social media so that you're not filled with the comparison game. Go find a different world of there are so many places to be on Instagram. When you start to feel like you're in a tunnel and silo is like, I hate that term. It's in every state meeting, representative meeting that I'm in right now. Is like, we can't exist in a silo. We must collaborate and communicate. But truly, if you're feeling that way, like that's all you're seeing every time you get on, go intentionally search for some other things in Instagram and go interact with some other content so that you find another corner of Instagram. or social media or Facebook, whatever it is, because there's a whole lot more out there in the world. I mean, what is it? 2% of the world is involved in agriculture. So if you feel like 100% of your time on social media is comparing yourself to another farm, then you are absolutely missing out on 98% of other people that have completely wild and varied interests. And you don't know, you might be able to go self-diagnose yourself with ADHD if you would just find a different corner.
Yeah.
Little did I know, there's a whole corner of the internet out there on neurodivergence in women that I learned so much about myself. And had I been looking at other ranches doing event venues, then I would have never found that out. You could be missing out.
I know that when you find that algorithm, aren't you in for a treat? Late diagnosed female ADHD. But yeah, and to speak on the topic of comparison in general, like I know you were really specifically talking about that, but it's really easy to fall into that comparison trap. And you need to realize that some of the things that make you different are the things that your customers are going to love and relate to. I ranch and farm in 2 different areas. And where I farm, there are a lot of really, really high-end farm stores and farmers with a lot of money. And that's just not me. I have an old hatchery building that has been converted into a store. It is not beautiful. It is not fancy. And I'm talking the farm stores in my area are millions and millions and millions of dollars to build, like high-end Vancouver yuppie farm stores. And they are filled with agricultural goods. They're owned by farmers. They're fantastic, killing it, doing all the great things. And then there's the ones that are not owned by farmers, but they want to look like they're owned by farmers. And that's a real thing in my community as well. But what makes people want to shop with us is our janky little farm store. And the fact that there's literally my old dining table from my kitchen in the store. And when you get there, you might find Jay and Jagger having their lunch. There's a microwave on a shelf and things like that where they're literally heating up their lunch. I don't have the fancy boxes for doing home deliveries. They're in a cryovac bag because we handle our own deliveries. Like I don't have those things because we choose not to as a business, because we can keep our prices lower if we don't have all that extra overhead. And that's what our customers love about us. They love that we are different in that way. I get so much feedback from people when they come and they're like, I feel like I'm like at your guys' house because Jagger's eating dinner or whatever while he's working. And it's just a different environment. People get incredible customer service at our farm store because it has no aisles. It's just one giant space. There's always somebody that works there that's sitting there. You might be able to sit down at the table with Jay and he's eating his lunch, and customers do. They'll sit down with him while he's having his lunch and they're like chatting with him.
I love that part of marketing is finding a way to turn what feels like an underdog moment into a key staple of what you're doing. And we talk about this a lot as we navigate our business shared together and just leaning on each other in hard times in our own businesses is crap, this happened. Okay, but how can we put a spin on this? How can we change this to a positive? And I still compare and see Green Bluff in our areas, like you said, huge tourist, tons of money rolling through there. They have everything that I would love to have: the pumpkin donut assembly line, conveyor belt, the farm store that's beautifully done and air conditioned and all the things. Guess what? You can hardly find a parking spot up there. Guess what I have at my market? I have enough acres in a field that you don't have to worry. Okay, we do have to switch driveways. But I mean, that was something that I was feeling really crappy about, not having these like permanent infrastructure features leading up to their biggest time of Fall Fest where you're all using that. And then I reminded myself, yeah, but I don't have to turn away customers. Like I have the capacity to park as many cars as show. It might take us a little bit, but we have that capacity. And I had to lean into that. And so I don't talk about how great my infrastructure is. I don't walk you through my farm store, but I do mention that like, hey, you're also not having to pay $20 to pull your car into my field. Like up there, you pay at everything. So I think that we're going to sneak one more in. And I say that because there is one that I feel like would be a super, not quick, but easy answer from you. I've been pricing my products based on what other local farms charge, but I'm barely breaking even. How do I confidently raise my prices without losing my loyal customers?
Yeah, I have an entire blog post on that exact topic from Central Park Farms because I did the exact same thing when I was coming up. And I have literally a letter to my customers explaining why. We will drop it in the show notes because if you need some help coming up with the words on how to do that. But I think that there's a lot to say about creating content that's educational for your customers. That's a big pillar in the content that I put out is that educational piece because I want consumers to know and trust the information that I'm giving them so that when I say to them, hey, you know what? I messed up. When we were in the beginning stages, I said to them, I messed up. I didn't know enough when I started this business to know that when I was matching prices with other farmers that they maybe didn't have a good idea of their numbers or my cost of production was different. And I'm going to have to make some of these changes. And I just did because at the end of the day, if you lose customers on products you are losing money on, I mean, that's not a problem. I mean, we think it's a problem, but if you're losing money producing what you're producing and those customers are only willing to give you the amount of money that they are, and then you're losing money, you've got to let those customers go. You have to be pricing in a sustainable way. Farmers deserve to make money and they deserve to be compensated and make a wage. So if you didn't have a good grasp of your numbers and now you do, congratulations. Because that means you can make changes to be able to make sure that you're being compensated. Share as much or as little as makes you feel comfortable. I tend to come from that educational piece. So I oftentimes will share because I want consumers to understand as a whole why it is that farmers have to charge the prices that they do. But if it helps you in any way, you can go and review that blog post in the show notes and feel free to put your own spin on those exact words. But I really want to encourage you to make sure that you do make that change, whether you're giving people a little bit of notice, whether you're making some incremental changes, you do need to be making sure that you're making money. Breaking even or losing money is not sustainable for the amount of work it takes to do what we do.
I did it in one fell swoop and did not do any education on it. In fact, from my first market in the mountains, vendors paid $60 for a spot in the field, which didn't even, it maybe barely covered their welcome box. I believe my budget was like $50 for their welcome box, cost me just under 10 to ship it out to them. And therefore I made nothing. Those people were getting very valuable real estate. They were getting a considerable amount of marketing effort from me. They were getting a lot of customers that came through the gate. I immediately raised my prices. I'm trying to do the math in my head and I'm not so great at it, but I went from $60 my first year to $250 my second year. And there were some people that were not shy in their exit from the situation. They were not happy about that. I did not do any educating on my social media, mostly because it's hard. That is one of the hardest parts of being as diversified as I am, and that I speak to business owners sometimes, but I'm also hyper aware of the fact that consumers and market goers are also watching my page. And so there's just certain times where I don't feel like this is not something I'm making a reel about because I don't need everyone that's purchasing a ticket. It just doesn't compute sometimes with it. And quite frankly, it got to the point where if I was going to be doing this and they were going to have the capacity to make the money that they were going to make off of that event, off of my work, I deserve to be compensated. And if they didn't see it that way, I had to bless and release them. I just had to be okay with letting them go.
And I think farmers, though, will always have more sensitivity to that because they're producing food.
Absolutely.
And there is so much sensitivity for consumers to because you could literally price people out of being able to afford food from you. So it's a very different. So we oftentimes as farmers, we will really internalize that and feel bad for trying to increase our prices differently than if I was raising prices for, a retail boutique on things but it's not sustainable and it's not good food security for farmers to be going out of business. And I think that because it's food is the only reason that I took the time to educate. And for me, part of my platform has always been I'm a first generation producer, and there's a lot of things about agriculture that I didn't know about before I got into it. And I want people to learn the things that I learned through this process so that they better understand when they're dealing with my farm and other people's farms. So it comes naturally for me to educate, and it doesn't seem like it's coming out of left field. But there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be raising prices in the next little bit. And so whether you decide to put education behind it or not is up to you. But that's just the way that I have always kind of viewed it. Now, don't get me wrong, I tinker with prices without saying anything. But if you're doing an overhaul of your prices, like I raised all of my pork prices at once and I did them by a chunk, it felt like it needed an explanation because people were used to having a certain grocery budget with me. And then they were going to come in and it was going to be a matter of from one week to the next, suddenly their groceries were going to be more expensive. That felt like it needed a conversation for me.
I think I get jealous of farms and your ability to educate on some of those things. If you are producing meat and you are speaking to your consumers and only your consumers, you are blessed to be able to have that education piece. And I think that more people should talk about the difference in inputs and the difference of costs, and generational farming costs different than first generation farming. Purchase of land is different in different places. There are all sorts of reasons why, and your story is going to be uniquely yours, which again touches back on the you being the one telling the story is what sets you apart and can be why your prices are different. And you can play different factors. You can market it in so many different ways. You can also restructure things, like if you have packages formally put together and the prices are not working, maybe restructure them so that it's also a rebranded thing that makes it a little bit easier. It just feels like a new something for your customers. There's lots of little tips and tricks on that. But at the end of the day, if you want to stay in business, you just have to raise your prices, it sounds like.
And if you lose some customers along the way, well, that's really unfortunate. It's not worth keeping customers that are causing you to lose money. Thank you for listening to this episode. We know there are only so many hours in the day, so we're honored you choose to spend some of your time with us. If you're one of the many rural women entrepreneurs who are struggling to find true community and step-by-step support that actually moves the needle in your business, join our signature group coaching program, the Workhorse Collective. You can find more information in the show notes of today's episode.
Together, we've set out to support and connect with women in rural business. If you found this episode valuable, we'd love it if you'd share with another woman in your circle. It would also be incredibly helpful if you would take a moment to leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and we'll catch you next time on the Workhorse Podcast.